Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is about training, and we're going to title this Newbie Knowledge, and this is part one. So newbies is kind of like a term people give to people who are new at the gym. It's not meant to be like like a bad thing. It's just a general term. So some people will say it like it's a bad thing, but it's not meant to be. So just means you're a new person at gyms, they call you newbie. And we had somebody request kind of this general topic as they thought it would be good for somebody who was really brand new to the gym to learn more about terminology and concepts of the gym so that way they could feel more comfortable going into the gym. So on our social media pages, we have Facebook, Instagram, and we have Twitter, but I don't really get on Twitter much. Sorry for those who like Twitter. I'm busy enough with Instagram, and that kind of keeps me going. So we have pages under our gym name, Brutal Iron Gym. So if you're not on those pages or following them, please do. We post something every single day about training, nutrition, whatever mindset stuff. It's unrelated to the podcast, so it's totally different information. So if you like this information, you'll absolutely love what we post on social media. So I asked people for some advice that they might give to newbies. And I'm going to try to cover a whole bunch in this one. Enough detail that you get to learn what you need to know, but I'm not trying to make it like super boring or super intense. So we're going to try to go through this. I labeled this as part one because I don't think I'm going to be able to get through everything. So I'm going to try my best in 30-ish minutes, and then we'll kind of make a second part if we need to. Okay, so here we go. So the first thing we're going to go through is definition of terms. So you'll hear people say when they go to the gym that they did, say, 5 sets of 10 reps. So what in the heck are sets and reps? So let's start with repetitions because it's an easier one to understand. So reps is short for repetitions. And all that means is if I picked up a weight and I did, say, a curl, like a bicep curl, if I picked up the weight, that means I've accepted the weight onto my body. That is the start of a set, okay? And let's say I do 10 reps of the curl, meaning I do 10 curl motions, and then I put the weight down. So that means the 10 curl motions was my repetitions. I did 10 reps. A set is the time from when you accept the weight onto your body, and then you put the weight down. So if I pick the weight up, I curl it 10 times, and I set the weight down, that was one set of 10 reps. So that's how we kind of define them. And how people should write them is, if you'll see sometimes where somebody will have like 5x10. What that means is 5 sets of 10 reps. So they should have sets be first. Not everybody does this. It's, where in the world does everybody play by the actual rules? So some people are going to get this wrong, and some people are going to be surprised that I feel like they're wrong. I have taught weight training classes at the university, and there actually are definitions through like American College of Sports Medicine, who I have my certification through, and they're the kind of like the governing body of educational classes when it comes to the university level. So you have to make your, when I did the syllabus for the school program, I had to make it accountable to the ACSM standards, so American College of Sports Medicine standards. So they're the people who set the standards, and their standard says it should be sets times reps. So that's how it should be listed. So if it says 5 by 10, it should be 5 sets of 10 reps. Now, like I said, not everybody does that. So you're watching a video of somebody and they have 5 by 10 and it shows them just do 5 reps. They've clearly messed up that writing. But that's the way you should write it from now on, okay? So it's sets times reps. Cool? Now, what are repetitions in the sense of like, how do we know how many we should do? So if I do 10 reps, how did I know that 10 was right? First of all, most people don't know what they're doing. But it's what it's based off of is in podcast number 54. So I am going to be throwing some numbers at you guys because some of these podcasts I'm going to reference are 30 minutes of information. Well, 20 to 30. So I can't give you all of that information for each item along this podcast. But so take out a pen or a note or something on your phone and take some notes if you want to learn more about this stuff. But in podcast 54, we talk about time under tension, which means we said a set is when you accept the weight onto your body, You do some repetitions of it, and then you put the weight down or take it off of your body. So from the time you put the weight on your body has to deal with that weight. That does not mean that's when your time under tension for an exercise actually starts. So it's actually when the muscle starts working. So for example, if I'm doing a squat. So I know I'm assuming that you guys are going to know what a squat is. But a squat is where you'll see somebody have like a barbell on their back, and they'll be in like a squat rack, like a big kind of rack that holds the bar. So they'll step up under it, they'll kind of unrack the bar, and the bar will be sitting on their upper back. They'll take some steps out, so that way they're away from the machine, and then they'll bend their knees and they'll start squatting. Well, it isn't until they bend their knees and the muscles accept the weight that the time under tension actually starts. So you can't count time under tension of just when you accept the weight if you're not actually moving. So it's when the working muscles, the muscles that you want to target with the exercise you're doing, it's when they start moving and accepting the weight. So if I stood up under a bar and I just kind of stood there and talked to you for a couple minutes, it doesn't mean I have time under tension. So in the sense of like I'm not working my muscles, if I'm standing there and my legs are locked out, that means my joints are holding the weight, not my muscles. So if I think of like a leg press, if I unrack the leg press, I kind of take a breath or two to get myself started and like get myself centered mentally, and then I bend my knees. It's not until I start bending my knees and opening up my joints and having the muscles accept the weight that our time under tension starts. So why I'm talking about time under tension is that's how we've kind of decided what repetitions you should do. Meaning, they've done studies. And if you lift something super heavy and you can't lift it for more than 10 seconds, they did studies to find out what is the body's response to that. Then they did like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 50 seconds, and so on and so on. And what they found was, in general, is activities of 10 seconds or less, in which you accept a heavy weight onto you, you try to move it, but within 10 seconds you can't move it anymore because it's so damn heavy. That means what your body's response will be increased strength. So your nervous system is going to increase in its ability to perform that activity again. Now, activities of 10 reps or less don't really have a lot of time under tension. 10 seconds is pretty short. So there's not a lot of muscle damage that occurs during 10 seconds. So muscle damage is what relates to how muscles grow. So if I wanted big muscles, activities of 10 seconds or less are too short for me to get a significant enough muscle damage to get significant amount of growth. So 10 seconds or less is strength. If you have roughly between 10 to 20 seconds, it's kind of strength getting a little bit into muscle damage. We more so kind of consider 10 seconds or less being showing your strength. 10 to 20 seconds being building your strength. Then from 20 seconds up to like 40 seconds is kind of heavier stuff that causes muscle damage. So it would relate to bodybuilding. However, okay, there's a big caveat I'm going to explain here in a second. So 20 to 40 seconds is kind of heavy stuff that does bodybuilding. 40 to 60 seconds is lighter stuff that still does bodybuilding. Okay? And then anything over 60 seconds really doesn't change the musculature of our body much. It just kind of burns calories and gets us better like muscular endurance, but we're not going to get necessarily any better muscular shape. So, if you're like, well, I don't want big muscles. I don't want to, look like my boyfriend or blah, 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 blah. If you don't want big muscles, you can still lift really heavy stuff between 20 and 40 seconds or between 40 and 60 seconds. So you can still train like a bodybuilder, quote unquote, and you won't build muscle. What actually dictates whether the muscle grows is how much food you eat. So when you're in the gym and you damage muscle tissue, all you're doing is setting up the body to be able to grow. You then have to consume extra calories above your normal kind of maintenance level of calories. How many calories you need just to survive. If you eat above that, and within your body there's damaged muscle, your body will try to repair that muscle by making it thicker and bigger. So you only get bigger muscle if you eat extra calories. Okay? So we have podcast 37 that explains that. Podcast 37 is titled 3 Parts of Muscle Growth. It explains how you have to have damage present in the body, so the muscles have to be damaged for them to be able to grow. You have to also have appropriate food for growth, and you have to have sleep. So those are the 3 parts. Okay? So if you don't want to build big muscles, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't train with heavy weights. So in podcast 181, I told you guys were going to get a lot of numbers. In podcast 181, we explained how you can use muscle damage for fat loss. So when our body tries to fix muscle, it burns calories to do so. That means that we have to chew up stored body fat sometimes if our food's appropriate, and we can actually get leaner. You can lose fat faster if you train with heavy enough weights to damage your muscle tissue. This is one of the biggest mistakes people make when they're trying to lose weight, is they undervalue the importance and the benefit of resistance training. They just do cardio, and the problem with cardio is you're only burning calories while you're actually doing it. Once you get off the cardio machine, there's really no more caloric burn. Even if you do intensity intervals, okay, some people will call it HIIT, high intensity interval training. Even if you do that, there's only a small residual effect. So what that means is they'll go really fast and really slow, really fast and really slow, or something like that. And they say, oh, you'll continue to burn calories once you get off the machine because your heart rate still fluctuates. That doesn't last very long. I mean, studies can show it like within an extremely horrible, crazy, aggressive bout of HIIT intensity, maybe can have an extra hour or so effect. But it's not going to last much longer than that. Whereas if you lift heavy enough weights to damage muscle tissue, your body can take up to 12, 24, 36 hours, even longer than that, to repair muscle, meaning you're going to burn extra calories at rest while your body's trying to fix that muscle. So, if you lift heavy weights enough to damage your muscles, so between 20 to 40 seconds for heavier weights, 40 to 60 seconds for like kind of medium weights, you will not automatically grow muscle. You have to have excess food around. Okay? Plus, the benefit of lifting heavy like that is it means your body has to work really hard to try to repair those muscles, and you're going to get leaner over time. You're actually going to get leaner faster than somebody who just does cardio. I've seen this firsthand, and I know the science of it, so I promise you this is true. I've even experienced it in my own life. We only have a short time here, so I can't go into crazy long stories. But the first 2 or 3 years of my lifting, I didn't know that you needed food to build muscle. So I ate nothing and lifted really heavy, aggressive weights because I thought eating nothing would help me lose fat, and I thought lifting really heavy weights just made muscles grow. I didn't know what they grew with. I didn't really think of that. I just thought, well, if I lifted heavy things, my muscle would respond by becoming bigger. Nope. So since I wasn't eating anything, I lost some fat, but I was actually severely under-eating. I wasn't eating enough. So my body actually stopped losing fat because it got in kind of like a starvation, it got into the feeling that it was being undernourished. So if it gave up body fat, it wouldn't have any reserves to take care of itself, to protect its organs. So my body actually stopped losing fat and started taking off muscle tissue. So there's a whole other kind of podcast about that we've done. But let me look that up real quick, because that's very valuable, I think, for you guys. There's a issue where, let's see here, lose weight. Okay, I eat healthy, but I can't lose weight. That's our first podcast number 1. Okay, so that's important for us to look at is why if I'm eating quote unquote healthy, why am I not losing weight? And then the one I really want to have you look at is podcast number 52, titled Nutrition. Whoops, I lost weight, but I look worse. So podcast number 52 talks about the significance of under-eating, of eating too little when you're trying to lose body fat. That's a bad thing, okay? So I know I'm giving you guys a lot of podcasts, but I wanted to try to give you enough information here that it's helpful. Okay, so we now know what sets and reps are. Sets is kind of when you accept the weight onto your body, you do some movements with it, and then you put the weight down. So that would be 1 set. Each movement you do is repetitions. Okay, so if I do 10 curls, it's 10 reps. How do we know how many reps we should do? Is podcast 54. It tells us the different time under tensions that are available for us and what results they would produce. So if I want to get strong, there's a certain number of reps I should be doing, or time under tension, really. If I want to get kind of more toned and shaped and tighter muscles, then there's a different amount of time under tension that I should be for my exercises. So go listen to podcast 54. And if you're afraid of building too much muscle, it ain't going to happen, okay? So listen to podcast 37 to understand why that can't happen unless you overeat. And then listen to podcast 181 to understand why it's really important and helpful to lift weights when you're trying to lose fat. Okay. So there's some quick information, but that's a lot of information. Okay? So this is why I said we're probably going to need part 2 and everything. So the next thing you'll kind of run into when people talk about what they do in the gym is they might use terms kind of like PR or a 1 rep max or 1 RM. You'll see that written that. Or they'll talk about percentages, like I did 90% for 2 sets of 2, reps or something like that. So what a PR is a personal record. So I pick on my mom sometimes because sometimes she'll write PB, and say it's a personal best, but there's no such thing as a PB. That just means peanut butter. So don't write PB. And now that I probably made that joke, everybody's going to remember PB instead of PR. But its personal record is what a PR is. So if somebody says I got a new PR of 405, that means it's a new personal record with 405 pounds. Now, what is a 1 RM? It's a 1 rep max, meaning what's the most they can lift for 1 repetition. And that would be their 1 rep max. So if I got a PR of 405 for a 1 RM, that means I got a personal record of 405 for a 1 rep max. So here's a very quick summary. If anybody ever tells you something, like they say, blah, 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 PR, just say congratulations. Okay? Doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter if it's good. If strength is all relative. So if somebody just looks excited to you and they say some kind of sentence with the letters PR in it, just say congratulations, that's awesome, I'm happy for you. Okay? So a 1 RM, if somebody says like, oh, I got a new 1 rep max of blah, 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 just say congratulations. So I've had in the past where I'll tell somebody, I don't do this really anymore because no one gives a shit, but when I was younger, I'd be like, oh, I got 315 on bench, and somebody would say, is that good? Don't ask me that question, because that's really damn good for me, because it was a personal best at the time. Okay, and I just use that dang term PB. Dang it, Mom. She's infiltrated my brain. So it was a new PR for me. Oh, gosh. So at that time, it was my best. Okay, so don't try to qualify it, and say, okay, well, is that good? Just say congratulations to the person. Okay, so that's what PR is a personal record. A 1 RM is a 1 rep max, the most they can do for 1 rep. Now, when somebody talks about percentages, what they're referring to is a percentage of their 1 rep max. So if they did 90% of 300, that's 270 pounds. Now, I am not going to go through and give you all these extra numbers here of okay, well, at certain percentages, how many reps should they be able to do? That can get a little bit crazy, and it kind of depends per person. But there is a chart called Polenik's chart, which we have not done a podcast on. I don't think I have. Let me see if I have. We have kind of a search function for our podcast here. So, no, I don't think I did. Okay. Nope, okay. So Polenik's chart is a chart that tells you, okay, if I'm at 90%, I should be able to do sets of 1 to 2 reps, and I should do a total of up to 4 reps per workout. So you might only do 4 sets of 1 rep that day, but 90% is really freaking heavy. So that's the appropriate amount for you to do. So if you are interested in strength training and you want to know how much you should do per workout, search Polenik's chart. So if I had to guess on how to spell Polenik's, because I can't think of it right now, it's Prelipens, or you flip the I's and the E's. So Prilepins, no Polenik's, one of those combinations. Just Google it, and Google will probably give you a suggestion of, oh, you meant this, and say, damn it, Rob, why didn't you tell me the right thing? So, but Polenik's charts will tell you how many sets and reps you should do at what percentages. Sometimes you'll also hear people talk about RPE. That's rate of perceived exertion. The actual scale of RPE goes from 8 to 20, but that doesn't make sense for lifting weights much. So people kind of use a scale of 1 to 10. However, no one really ever says they did an RPE of 2. That kind of doesn't make any sense. So you'll typically see people use like kind of 6 to 10 as like a range of RPE. What you'll almost always hear is RPE can kind of be related back to like reps in reserve. So you'll see that written as RIR sometimes. So if somebody says, oh, I did a set of 5 at 9 RPE. 9 out of 10 means they could have gotten maybe one more rep. So they did maybe a set of 5 and they really could have got 6. And the reason why this is important to sometimes track is it's not always safe or appropriate to lift to an absolute failure. So sometimes you want to lift with something that's really heavy, but stop 1 or 2 reps short of actually failing, so that way you can enforce good form and not get injured. So that's why somebody wouldn't just do, the most they could every single set. You get the shit kicked out of you when you get really strong. You can't lift to failure every time as you get stronger and stronger. Okay, so hopefully you guys are still with me. But that's some of those terminologies. So PR is personal record. 1RM is a 1 rep max, the most they can do for 1 rep. Percentages are the numbers based off of their 1 rep max. And RPE is kind of the rate of perceived exertion. How hard did it feel? So if I say it was an 8 out of 10, it felt like an 8 out of 10. So what I mean by that is when the doctors ask us, well, out of 10, out of a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel? And you're like, I feel like shit. So you don't even want to give them a number. But you would say, oh, this hurts at like an 8 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 means you're dead. And they better get to helping you. But that's what RPE and stuff means. Okay? So let's go through a couple more, and then we're definitely going to be needing part 2 here, because I'm not even halfway through the list of concepts we wanted to discuss. So the next thing you'll hear people talk about sometimes is free weights versus machines. So you'll hear some people say, oh, you should only use free weights. Machines are for babies, or something like that. And then you'll hear people like me say machines are actually totally fine. You just have to know when to use them. So free weights refers to barbells and dumbbells. Dumbbells are the small individual weights that you hold in your hand. So that's usually 1 per hand. And a barbell is the big long bar that people use in the gym. Okay, barbells typically weigh 45 pounds. At our gym, we have a shit ton of specialty bars that don't all weigh 45 pounds. So it depends on where you're at. But regular commercial gyms, if they have a barbell, like Planet Fitness does not have barbells, by the way, they have barbells that are on guided rail machines, which are called Smith machines. But regular barbells at most commercial gyms are 45 pounds. Dumbbells can weigh anything. So there's 1 pound dumbbells. There's probably even half pound dumbbells, but there's 1 pound dumbbells. You can get dumbbells up to like 200 pounds. Some companies make them by 2.5 pound jumps, which gets stupid for gym owners because that's way too expensive to buy, from 2.5 up to 100 pounds at 2.5 pound increments. So some gyms you'll see they'll have maybe 3s, 5s, 7.5s, 10, 12.5, 15. And then maybe they'll just go 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. But those are dumbbells, okay? So dumbbells and barbells are your basic definition of free weights. But then as kettlebells got more popular, they're a free weight as well. So how you define that is it's a weight that moves freely. So that's a free weight, meaning it can kind of go anywhere, and you're in charge of making sure it doesn't go into your face. So a machine is something that's guided, and it has kind of like one pathway, and you're just kind of shoving the handles around to make sure you can move it through that pathway, but you don't have to stabilize it, you don't have to balance it. Okay? So what is best for you is if you don't have a trainer and you're new to lifting, start on machines. It builds confidence. The worst thing you can really do is sit backwards on one, but you can't really get injured much. So if you look at weight benches, so most weight benches that have the ability to change their incline, so those are called adjustable benches, where you can kind of make the bench kind of at various degrees of incline. There will also be this short little pad where your butt goes. Okay? So you're kind of like your butt goes on the short pad, and then your upper body goes on the long part of the pad. So sorry, Mom, I am telling this story. Is when my mom first started lifting at our school gym, she thought the butt pad was the head pad. She thought it was a headrest. So she was laying on it backwards all the time, so where everybody put their sweaty bums is where she was putting her head. So it's kind of hilarious. So I picked on her a little bit, and then I told her the fact that she was putting her head where everybody puts the bum, and then she never forgot. So everybody has those stories. I love how I use everybody else's stories rather than my own. But yes, so it will happen. Sometimes you will sit backwards on stuff. But machines will at least make sure you don't drop a dumbbell in your face. Okay? You're less likely to get injured with machines. So it's a good place to start and just kind of, wet your whistle and get used to the gym environment and get to knowing a little bit. Now, if you're with a trainer, most trainers are going to want to start you on free weights because more musculature is involved with free weights because you have to balance and support the weight yourself, plus also move it. But the benefit of having the trainer is they can protect you. So that way you don't get hurt. Okay? So most trainers will start you with free weights, but if you're by yourself, you should start with machines. So you actually want to use every tool available to you when you're trying to get healthy and fit. So sometimes machines are great, sometimes free weights are great. It just depends on your goals. So if anybody ever tells you some blanket statement of never use a machine, they're an idiot. If somebody tells you, oh, you shouldn't use free weights, they're an idiot. So there's no reason to exclude any equipment available to you that has the ability to improve your potential, okay, improve your health, okay? So, like for example, when I have elderly clients who need to work on strength, and we want to do it in a safe manner, especially if we want to load their bones to help prevent osteoporosis or help fight arthritis, we'll use a leg press. Because the leg press is super balanced. They don't have to worry about it wobbling or getting off balance or getting hurt. So we can put more weight on them than we could do with a barbell on their back, which is absolutely not appropriate for some people. Some people don't have anatomically good positioning to put a barbell on their back safely. Okay? So you might say, oh, well, my trainer has me hold a dumbbell or a kettlebell in front of my chest. Okay, well, how heavy of a dumbbell or kettlebell can you really hold? So I have people in their 50s and 60s that are leg pressing over 300 pounds, and that's what their bones are having to absorb, their joints are having to absorb. So it's helping fight against osteoporosis and arthritis, but they sure as shit can't hold a 300-pound dumbbell because it doesn't even exist. So sometimes machines are freaking awesome, and they're necessary, and they do great things. So don't ever exclude anything in the gym. Learn what everything is. So I try to do that with my clients, is I try to teach them what every single thing is in the gym, even if they're only going to use it once, because being familiar with it allows them to feel more comfortable in the gym. Okay? So that's where I'm going to kind of hold off, and then I want to touch real quickly on trainers. And then we're going to come back and get you guys a part 2, kind of discussing some other stuff that I think is helpful for people to know. So, podcast number 149 is, do I need a trainer? Listen to that podcast to find out if a trainer is appropriate for your needs. The answer is no. However, trainers really do help sometimes. So you absolutely don't need a trainer. Of course not. But can they shortcut things for you? Can they keep you safe? Can they make everything more efficient? Yeah. So go listen to 149, okay, and learn, do I need a trainer? And it'll talk about what good trainers are too. In podcast 26, we discuss training advice, who you should listen to. So should you listen to your friend who's giving you advice pretending like they know everything? Maybe yes, maybe no. It's generally you want somebody who has a mixture of experience knowledge and a mixture of formal knowledge. So go listen to podcast 26 to find out who you should take advice from, and podcast 149 to find out if you need a trainer, what kind of trainer should you get, who's good, like what is a good trainer. Okay? So, hopefully this information was helpful and got us kind of started as our part 1. Okay? If you need any help, please reach out to us. We will be making a part 2 and sharing that. So if you need any help or you want any clarity, or maybe there's some questions that you would like included in part 2, let us know. Okay, our email is brutalironGym@gmail.com. Cool. So thank you for listening to part 1. If you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, Brutal Iron Gym.